This is the presentation on the manager's process for the Classified and Confidential's monthly electronic timesheet. We'll be going over how to access and use the system, but first I want to start by explaining the change in the way the staff will be reporting their time. The time and leaves being reported are going to be the actual time worked and leaves taken, so they're no longer going to be projecting ahead of time. So this requires that you hold off on approving timesheets until after the last workday for the month for that staff. So the system will be open for staff on the 25th of each month and will be open for them until midnight on the last day of the month. So if they submit their time early, you don't have to reject it unless there are corrections needed. However, please wait to approve the timesheet until the last workday or the end of the month. It's important that you do not approve estimated schedules, only actual times and leaves. So here are the steps we'll be going over. We're going to talk about using Chrome as your browser by logging into my gateway. You're going to go to the Employee tab, click on the icon for CMET, which is the acronym for the timesheet. Click on the Timesheet Approval, select the timesheet to review, add in any budget information if you need it, and then accept or reject the timesheet. And if it's all okay, approve the timesheet. So that's the general steps. If you're comfortable going into the system as it is, feel free to go right ahead. If you want more of a guided walkthrough, we'll be going over these steps in a little bit more detail. But let me at least let you know that there is one thing we found in terms of navigation, that if you can use various browsers, but we found Chrome was the best, and that Internet Explorer will not work for the system. So if you go into the timesheet system and you're like, I can't see anything, it's probably because you're on Internet Explorer. Try another one of the browsers that are available to you. All right, so let's get into more details on accessing and using the system. So first we start by logging into My Gateway. The timesheet system is in or behind the My Gateway login. So to do so, you'll open up a browser, preferably Chrome, and access My Gateway. So you can access it from any of the campus or site websites. At the top of each site homepage is a link to My Gateway. So if you click on that link, and it'll take you to the login for My Gateway. So once you're here, you'll use your ID. It's going to be your banner ID. It's not your banner login, but your banner ID. And if you don't know what that is, it's probably on your employee ID. And your password. If you don't know your password, then there is a link on the login page to reset your password. Once you log into My Gateway, go to the Employee tab. If it's not the first page that you land on, then you can access it by clicking on Employee from the list on the left side of the website, and it's under the My Gateway home. If you don't see a list, then just click on the My Gateway home and you'll see the drop down. It'll open up the list, and then Employee will be available at that point. Then on the employee page, look for the employee links, and there will be an icon there for CMET, which is the acronym we're using for the Classified and Confidential's monthly electronic timesheet system, because that is a mouthful. And this will take you to the landing page for the timesheet system. So once you're on the timesheet system, you're going to select Timesheet Approval. So as an approver or a reviewer, which I'll get into more on reviewers near the end of the video, you'll click on the Timesheet Approval link. That will take you to a list of the employees that report to you per banner who have submitted their timesheets. So you can click on their name. It will take you into their timesheet for the month. Here you'll see that the timesheet looks very similar to the old paper format. We've got the columns, which are the different types of leave or time that they're reporting, the dates down the left-hand side. We've added in the days of the week. We've also included the name of the employees whose timesheet you're looking at here, so that you can, I'm sure if you have more than one employee, you want to see who's you're looking at. There's a lot of zeros, as you can see, and that is necessary right now for the way the system works. So what we've tried to do is bring forth the time that your employee has entered by putting in the amounts there in a bold and larger font. So you can see all these other zeros are defaulted into the system, and the employee's entries are noted in the large blue bolded numbers. There's also an explanation column that your staff would be using if they have any information they want to explain or note related to that day's time. As I mentioned, the timesheet looks very similar to the existing paper format. So the leaves and their use and requirements are still the same as defined by contract. But we did add in 2 columns for the 2 temporary new categories that are available for the on-site work that you've been reporting for premium pay per the MOUs that were in place related to the pandemic and remote working circumstances. So if those categories no longer apply, then those columns would no longer be used. And we did include an explanation on what these two on-site categories are in the employee staff informational video and handout. Once you're done looking at the information, if you need to have any corrections made, you can include a message to your staff here in the comments box. If your staff had anything they needed to draw your attention to, they would have put that in their comment box. It would appear here in the comments history. And these comments are not for payroll processing information like budget information. They're just information between you and your staff. The payroll department will not be accessing these comments when processing the timesheets. So if you do have information related to budget or information you need to communicate to payroll, that's going to be information you'll put into this budget box. So when payroll looks at this information, it is separate from the daily time data entered by your staff above in terms of each of these lines. So please provide as much information as necessary for payroll to look at it by itself and link it back up to the time you're referring to. For example, if you wrote pay out all overtime, that would be clear in terms of the employee, or charge all overtime to this certain budget and you just put in the budget number. Or in my example here, I've noted that the dates here on the 17th and the 18th, there's overtime, 4 hours total, please charge to this budget. So the default budget, for those of you who don't generally use different budgets, the default budget is the budget associated with the employee's permanent position. However, sometimes an employee may be working on a project for a different department and you really want that time to have been charged to that department. So you would note that alternate budget and time in this box. So if your review indicated that corrections are needed, then you can select to reject the timesheet. It will be returned to the employee. They'll get an email telling them that their timesheet's been rejected. They'll be able to make corrections and will need to correct and resubmit in time for you to complete your review and approve in time. So that would be one of the first options. If you feel like the timesheet's good to go, then you can select to approve the timesheet. Whichever you do, once you make your selection, click on send. That will execute that decision. So as I mentioned earlier, we're no longer projecting or estimating time. So you want to approve the timesheets after the last workday of the month for that employee or after the end of the month. So staff will have between the 25th and the last day of the month to complete their timesheets, and you will have until the end of the day on the 5th to complete approving all your staff's timesheets. So if your staff submit early, just don't approve it until their last workday for the month. So I mentioned earlier there's an option for you to add somebody or people as your reviewers to help you look at all these timesheets. So if you have classified or confidential staff that help you review the timesheets, you can assign them to help you here. So the staff you assign will then be able to review all the timesheets for staff that report to you, and that's staff that report to you per banner. So to assign a reviewer, you're just going to go back to the same area in terms of where you started in terms of timesheet approval. You'll click on the reviewers section or that tab. There you can add reviewers or remove a reviewer if you no longer want that person to be reviewing for you. So if you click on add reviewers, you will get a list of classified and confidential staff, and you can select who you want. You can add them at that point. There's a little add icon, and they'll be able to review the timesheets for the classified and confidential staff who report to you per banner. And if you change your mind, you no longer want that person to review those timesheets, you can remove them at any time by clicking on this icon. So only immediate management supervisors can approve timesheets for payroll to process. The reviewers can assist the IMS and can reject the timesheet for corrections, or if they feel the timesheet can be moved forward, they can designate it as reviewed and move it forward. So this is very similar to the earlier process discussed. Pick a selection and then click the send button. The IMS can also reject the timesheets for correction, even if it's already been noted as reviewed. The timesheet will go back to the staff for their correction. And finally, the IMS can approve the timesheet, and then it will be moved forward to payroll for processing. If you go back to the list of the submitted timesheets where we started for your landing platform, then you can see the status of all the timesheets for your staff, whether it's been reviewed and who reviewed it, or if it's been submitted, and if it still needs to be maybe re-reviewed or approved at least. Regardless of the status, you'll need to have completed your review and approval process for all your staff by the end of the 5th day of that following month. So that's what this is. The end, you have until the 5th day of that following month. So for example, August timesheets must be approved by the end of day September 5th. September timesheets will need to be approved by the end of day October 5th. So we've given you the first 5 days of that month to complete your processes. So that's the whole process. If you run across an issue that you need further assistance with, please send your question to the payroll@noccccd.edu email address, and one of the payroll staff will follow up. We're pretty excited about this system and hope that you find it helpful. The testers found it helpful. We hope it helps you to manage one aspect of all the many things that you do have to manage. Thank you.